Hi, this is Stephanie from PUC. Someone is signed into the Zoom hearing just listed as Robert. Is that Mr. Young?
Yes.
Okay, if you can change your screen name to first and last name and then your company name, just so it's clear who's speaking when it's on the screen.
Okay, so change my screen name.
Yeah, so when you're in the Zoom, if you can see if you hover over
Oh,
your box, there's
yes.
three dots. Click there and rename and just put your first and last name and then your business name.
Okay. Okay, is that better?
Yes, thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Harriet, can you hear me and are you ready to proceed?
I can hear you. I'm ready to proceed.
Great. Then at this time, I would like to call to order, go on the record in proceeding number 24G-0546TO. We are here today for the evidentiary hearing of Colorado Public Utilities Commission as complainant against Robert Young doing business as Tow2Go LLC. This hearing was scheduled pursuant to decision number R25-0062-I. I'm Kelly Rosenberg, the administrative law judge assigned to this proceeding. I would like to inform or remind all participants that it is the Commission's practice to record and webcast legal proceedings, including this one, and we have a court reporter recording every word stated. Please keep your microphone muted if you are not speaking on the record, and please do your best to not speak over one another, which can sometimes be tricky when we're in a virtual setting. Also, if I mispronounce anyone's name, I mean no disrespect, please just correct me and I will do my best to correct myself from there on out. At this time, I would like to take appearances, beginning with staff.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. Justin Larson with the Colorado Attorney General's Office, appearing on behalf of PUC staff. With me is my co-counsel, Aileen Chong, and PUC staff's investigator for this case, Jay Estrada, who will be our sole witness for today's case.
Great, good afternoon. And then respondent, Mr. Young, I believe you are here. Do you have an attorney today?
No, ma'am.
And are you able to turn on your camera?
My camera is saying it's not available. It says unable to detach camera.
Sure. That happens sometimes. Are you able to see us?
Yes.
Okay, because when exhibits go up and things like that. And I need to just ask you a couple of questions to make sure you can represent Tow2Go LLC in this proceeding. Does your company have 3 or fewer owners or partners?
No.
No, how many owners or partners does it have?
1. Oh, just 1.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. I think that we had a miscommunication. So, okay. And then do you have authority to speak on behalf of Tow2Go LLC?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so then when I'll allow you to represent the company. Ordinarily, lawyers need to represent entities, but there are some exceptions to that.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to make a note to everyone that we will take a break around 3 o'clock if we are still going, just so everyone can plan for that. And at this time, does staff have any preliminary matters before we begin?
No preliminary matters, Your Honor. We're willing to head right on to testimony whenever you're ready.
Okay. And then, Mr. Young, do you have any preliminary matters?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then staff, you may proceed with your case.
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff calls Jay Estrada.
Great. Mr. Estrada, do you mind raising your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I don't think we can hear you.
How about now?
Yes, now we can. So I think you said yes. Can you just confirm you said yes?
Yes.
All right, please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Estrada. Can you please state and then spell your name just for the record?
Yes, Jay Estrada, Jayestrada.
Who is your current employer?
The state of Colorado?
And any particular agency with the state of Colorado?
Yes, currently a criminal investigator with the Public Utilities Commission Transportation Division.
And can you please describe your duties in that role as a criminal investigator for the PUC?
Yeah, we investigate and do several other activities with several entities that we enforce upon, which would be towing industry, Uber, Lyft, taxis, limos, and so forth.
And how long have you worked for the PUC?
Going on 6 years now.
And can you just briefly describe your prior experience before taking on your current role?
Yeah, I've been in law enforcement one way or another for over 30 years, consisting of every branch that you can think of, dispatch, working in detentions, patrol, and as a detective.
Thank you, Mr. Strata. So how did you come to be assigned to today's case?
The case was assigned to me by my supervisor, Lloyd Swint.
And how did this case come to the attention of the PUC?
A complainant lodged the complaint against the respondent in reference to the towing of her vehicle on January 31st of last year.
And can you just briefly give us a high-level summary of what the allegations of that complaint were?
Yeah, on that day, the complainant received a phone call from an individual basically stating that he had her vehicle and it was being towed from where it was being repaired, and that if she wanted it, she had to come and get it from him. This individual told her then that she was have to come to an address, which ended up being a residential area, and that he only accepted cash for the tow. An arrangement was made for a time, and the respondent, or I'm sorry, the complainant was told that that time would not work, and that the respondent or that the person on the phone gave a certain time for them to be there. They went there to retrieve the vehicle, and they did, or she did, and at that time she asked for a detailed invoice. She was not given one, only a receipt over email.
Now, before we get into the details of your investigation in this case, based on the sum of your investigation, did you issue a civil penalty assessment notice or CPAN against the respondent?
I did.
And can we please pull up what's been pre-marked as staff's hearing exhibit 100? Thank you. And can you see that, Mr. Estrada?
Yes.
And do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What is it?
That is the civil penalty assessment that was served to the respondent.
And how are you familiar with it?
I created it with my probable cause and documented the proof of service.
And are CPANs like the one we see here in Exhibit 100 made as part of the regular practice of the Public Utilities Commission?
Yes, they are.
And are CPANs like this kept in the ordinary course of the PUC's business record?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, staff moves to admit what's been previously marked as staff's hearing Exhibit 100.
Exhibit 100 is admitted.
Now, Mr. Estrada, again, we're going to get into the details in a moment, but can you just give us a brief high-level summary of what the violations were included in this CPAN?
Yeah, after receiving the initial complaint, my investigation started. I started by checking the permit status of the respondent. At this time, I found there to be, at the time, there'd be no permit. There was no insurance on file with the commission. Based on what the complainant told me, that there was no invoice provided to her. And because there was no permit, there was a problem with authorization, along with overcharging for storage and not having an address for the business on file with the commission.
And thank you, Mr. Estrada. We can go ahead and take that down. And after reviewing the allegations in the complaint, did you review any information relating to respondents' entities on file with the commission?
Yes, when I did a search in our IFM system, that is an acronym for Integrated File Management System, I wanted to check the status of the complainant's permit.
And can we please pull up what has been previously marked as staff's hearing exhibit 101, and this should be the redacted version. Thank you. And if you wouldn't mind just scrolling through that really quick, just so we can see all 9 pages. And are you able to see all this okay, Mr. Estrada?
Yes.
And do you recognize this series of documents?
Yes.
What are they?
These are what's called composite reports for each individual entity that I was looking into in reference to this case, and it shows all information as far as permit status, addresses, designated agents, insurance status, and so forth.
And how are you familiar with these documents?
They are used in a daily basis in any investigation that we may have on and or getting any information on an entity when requested to do so.
And are IFM's entries like this made as part of the regular practice of the PUC?
Yes,
And are IFM's entries like this kept in the ordinary course of the PUC's business record?
yes,
Your Honor, staff moves to admit both the redacted and confidential versions of staff's hearing exhibit 101 if there are no objections.
Both versions of Exhibit 101 are admitted.
Now, before we get into further details on this exhibit, Mr. Estrada, when we were scrolling through it earlier, it appears to show reports for 3 different entities. So can you just explain briefly why that is?
yes. When the initial complaint was made, the information that I had was on a company named Tow2Go LLC. And doing my searches, my initial search with IFMs, 2 companies came up with that name. One was Tow2Go LLC and the other was Tow2Go Enterprises. When I then conducted an online search to see if there was any kind of information I could get from the internet, I put in Tow2Go and another company, 2 Chain Towing, appeared. And so that's why now all 3 of them are there.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. Now, if we can just start with the IFM's entries for Tow2Go LLC, which is the respondent in today's case. This is on pages 7 through 9 of the exhibit. If we could just scroll down there. Thank you. So can you just summarize what this IFM's entry for Tow2Go LLC contains?
Basically, the information that I mentioned before about the permit status, any names associated with it, addresses, emails, designated agent, insurance, and so forth.
Thank you. And was just looking at some of the information here, was there a storage facility on file for Tow2Go LLC?
No, there was not.
Is that a usual requirement for towing companies in the state of Colorado?
If they are storing vehicles and charging storage, then yes.
And what was the status of Tow2Go LLC's permit on the date of the tow at issue here, January 31st, 2024?
It was inactive.
And if we could just scroll down to the final page of the exhibit. If you scroll to the bottom there. Oh, I apologize. Actually, can we go to the page right before that? My apologies. And then the bottom of that page. Okay, thank you. And looking at those last 2 entries there, Mr. Estrada, can you explain to us how you were able to know that the permit was inactive on the date of the tow?
Yes, right there where it talks about the PUC number / utility ID number. Right below it, it does have a T / a 5-digit number. That is the permit number that was issued to that company, obviously for transportation. And the dates show 11/15 of 2019 to incomplete. But up above in the initial spot, it does show that it was inactive at the time.
And those final 2 entries there where it says 11/15/2019 through 11/16/2021, is that to be understood as that the permits became inactive on 11/16/2021?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And can you, and briefly, I apologize, I meant to ask this earlier, but can you just tell us where on this document indicates the date that you accessed it?
At the very bottom right of that page, you will see where it says 10/30 of 2024 at 9:38 a.m.
Thank you. And are towing carriers required to have insurance information on file with the commission in order to operate?
Yes.
And if we could just scroll down to the bottom of this document, page 9. Now, were you able to see on the IFM's entry whether the respondent or this particular entity had active insurance on the date of the tow?
There was no active insurance. Everything was canceled on the date of 11/16 of 2021.
And that's under the insurance information tab in the middle of this page here?
Yes, it is.
Now, let's turn then to the information for the other entity with Tow2Go in the name. That's Tow2Go Enterprises. This will be on pages 3 through 6 of the exhibit. Or sorry, 4 through 6. My apologies. Now, can you briefly summarize, Mr. Estrada, what information was included in this IFMS entry?
It would be the same as the previous entity, which would show permit status, address information, email information, registered or designated agent information, and insurance and so forth.
And again, this is going to be duplicative, but was there a storage facility listed for this entity?
No, there is not.
And was there an active permit for this entity on the date of the tow, January 31st, 2024?
No, there was not.
Was there active insurance information for this entity?
No, there was not.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. And we'll come back to this exhibit for the third entity in a moment. But first, I wanted to ask you about some of the other information you reviewed. So if we could please pull up what has been pre-marked as Staff's Hearing Exhibit 102. Thank you. And again, if we could just do a very quick scroll through just so we can see the whole document. And are you able to see all of this okay, Mr. Estrada?
Yes.
Do you recognize these documents?
Yes.
What are they?
They are basically the business entity information and status of the registration with the Secretary of State in the Secretary of State database.
And how did you become familiar with these exhibits?
This is information that we look into to try and gather further information on the entities for our investigations.
Is it part of your normal practice to review this information with the Colorado Secretary of State as part of your investigative duties with the PUC?
Yes.
Your Honor, staff moves to admit hearing exhibit 102 if there are no objections from the respondent.
Exhibit 102 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Estrada, what were you able to learn from the information you obtained from the Colorado Secretary of State in exhibit 102?
Well, that the three different entities of when they were formed, their status as far as being on file with the Secretary of State, and the information as far as individuals who is the contact for them. And they use registered agent as opposed to designated agent like the PUC.
Thank you. And sorry to jump around, Ms. Weisenthal, but if we could just go back to what was previously admitted as Staff's Hearing Exhibit 101, the redacted version. And we'll be just starting on page 1 to talk about the third entity here, which is on pages 1 through 3. Now, so this is one for two-chain towing. So what did you learn from this IFMS entry for two-chain towing?
From the IFMS entry itself?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, pretty much the information that I've discussed before is all the information with his entity as far as the permit status, addresses, emails, insurance, and so forth.
And did this entity have a active permit and active insurance information on the date of the tow?
At the time of the tow that I found, no, they did not.
And can we just scroll down, please, to page number 3, I believe? All right. And so this appears to show that it was active as of 10/31/2023, and there's nothing indicating it became inactive. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And so do you understand then that this entity did actually have an active permit on the date of the tow?
Yes, I wanted to clarify my previous answer, which was when I did a initial search through the Secretary of State's database under Tow2Go, a third entity popped up which said Tow2Go, aka two-chain towing, and in that form it showed that this business was not formed until was looking to be formed until June of 2024. So that's what I was basing my answer on.
Understood. And so, but when you looked at this information, as far as the IFMS, what's on file with the PUC, did you see anything like a DBA or an AKA that would tie two-chain towing to either of the other Tow2Go entities we discussed?
No, there was not.
And why would something like that be important?
Because that would let us know people change their business names all the time and they want to keep all the business stuff together. And so that would tell us that those businesses were all conjoined. And in this case, there was nothing to suggest that they were all tied together to the same business.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. Now, moving on, then we can go ahead and take this one down. So after you reviewed the complaint, the IFMS info, and the Colorado Secretary of State info, did you have any follow-up discussions with the complainant?
Just prior to hearing, I reached out to him as far as.
Oh, I'm sorry, the complainant.
Oh, I'm
not the
sorry.
respondent.
I'm sorry. Yes, I did contact the complainant when I opened up my investigation, and she confirmed the information in the complaint.
Were you able to confirm with the complainant at which address she picked up her vehicle?
I was in two different addresses shown on Tow2Go and Tow2Go Enterprises, one on Gilpin Street and one on Pontiac Street. I was able to find, or I'm sorry, on Gilpin Street. And then with the 2-chain towing, the address on Pontiac Street, I was able to find pictures of the houses on Google Maps, send them to her and ask her which house she picked up her vehicle from.
Thank you. Can we please pull up what's been previously marked as staff's hearing exhibit 103? Okay, thank you. And do you recognize this this email thread, Mr. Estrada?
I do.
And was this the email thread you were discussing earlier where you confirmed the address at which the complainant picked up her vehicle?
Yes, it is.
And scrolling down to the bottom there, can you please just tell us which address she confirmed that she picked up her vehicle?
The Pontiac Street address.
Your Honor, staff moves to admit both the confidential and redacted versions of staff's hearing exhibit 103.
Exhibits 103, both versions are admitted.
Thank you. Now, let's see. Did you receive any additional information or documents from the complainant regarding the tow?
Yes, I received the receipt that she got through email from the respondent.
And can we please pull up what was previously marked as staff's hearing exhibit 104? And do you recognize this, Mr. Estrada?
Yes, that is the receipt that was given to me by the complainant.
And how did you receive this from the complainant?
Through email from the complainant.
Thank you. Staff moves to admit staff's hearing exhibit 104.
Exhibit 104 is admitted.
Now, what did you draw any conclusions when you looked at this any conclusions you drew from this receipt, Mr. Estrada?
Yes, that this is clearly just a receipt and not an itemized invoice that the complainant had asked for, along with the main issue of storage, that a full day of storage was charged when the vehicle was not there for a full day and it was required to be permitted under state law.
And how did you know, how were you able to know that this vehicle was not stored for the full 24-hour period?
Because it was released the same day. This invoice is dated the same day that the complainant received it and the vehicle.
And if we could just scroll to the bottom of the exhibit there, it indicates that it was paid in cash. Is that correct?
Yes.
And from your understanding from the complaint, the initial complaint, your discussions with the complainant, was the complainant allowed to pay by major credit card?
No, she was told that the respondent accepted cash only.
Are towing carriers in the state of Colorado required to accept payment by major credit card?
Yes.
Now, and we can go ahead and take that down. Thank you. You've mentioned a couple times a tow record or tow invoice. And Are towing carriers in the state of Colorado required to use and complete a tow record invoice form for all non-consensual tows?
They are ordered, or they are required to, yes, complete them and give them upon request.
Was the complainant ever provided a copy of such an invoice in this case?
No,
And are towing carriers in the state of Colorado required to have proper authorization before performing a non-consensual tow?
yes,
Was the complainant ever provided with proof of such authorization, either in an invoice or any other form?
no,
Did you ever reach out to the respondent, Mr. Robert Young, in this case prior to the hearing?
yes,
Was he able to provide you a copy of this invoice that we were discussing?
invoice or authorization, no.
Now, during your investigation, Mr. Estrada, did you discover any other PUC investigations or actions related to any of the three entities associated with Mr. Young?
Yes,
Can we please pull up what's been marked as staff's hearing exhibit 105? Thank you. Do you recognize this document, Mr. Estrada?
yes.
What is it?
This is a warning letter that was served to Mr. Young by investigator Joe Potts for violations that Joe Potts found in his case.
And how did you become familiar with this document?
Investigator Potts brought it to my attention.
Your Honor, staff moves to admit what's been pre-marked as hearing exhibit 105.
Admitted.
Thank you. So just briefly, what is the date of this warning letter?
August 26th of 2024.
And against which entity was this warning letter issued?
2 Towing LLC.
So acknowledging that this warning letter was issued to a different entity and after the date of the tow at issue in this case, can you just describe how this warning letter factored into your investigation?
It was just showing several violations pertaining to the invoice and not having a storage lot address on file with the commission. It's just showing a continuing pattern of these violations.
Thank you, Mr. Estrada. And we can go ahead and pull that down. Now, how was the CPAN served on Mr. Robert Young doing business as Tow2Go LLC for today's hearing?
Via certified mail.
And where did you obtain the service addresses in order to send the CPAN to the respondent?
From the IFM, the addresses in our IFM's database.
And just to refresh on this, can we please pull up what was previously admitted as Staff's Hearing Exhibit 101, again, the redacted version? And if we could just start on page 9, we'll look at the designated agent for Tow2Go LLC. And so if you could just scroll up just a tiny bit. Thank you. So under where it says designated agent there, do you see that, Mr. Estrada?
Yes.
And you see the address there is the 11383 Colorado Boulevard?
Yes.
And is that the address to which you would usually serve a CPAN, like in today's case?
That is where we normally start, is with the designated agent, yes.
And if we could just scroll up then to page 5 of the document, this is going to show the designated agent for Tow2Go Enterprise. And the address there is the 11662 Gilpin Street, correct?
Yes.
And then go up to page 3, please. That will show the designated agent for 2 Towing. And that is the same address as the one that was listed for Tow2Go LLC, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on then, can we please pull up what's been pre-marked as Staff's Hearing Exhibit 106? And if you could just scroll through one more time so we can see all the different things are included here. And are you able to see all that, Mr. Estrada?
Yes,
Do you recognize this collection of documents?
yes.
And what are they?
They're the letters that I attempted to serve Mr. Young at the Gilpin address and the Pontiac address. And before I realized the other address on Colorado Boulevard, the other printouts from the USPS showed that I was not having any success getting them served. And so I then handwrit that one envelope that showed the information going to them, or to Mr. Young, at the American Family address, or American Insurance, I think it's American Family, on the Colorado Boulevard. And then also there is the printout to show that it was delivered along with the card itself.
Thank you. So you, am I to understand you created all of these documents or saved them to the
Yes.
file?
Yes.
Your Honor, staff moves to admit hearing exhibit 106.
Exhibit 106 is admitted.
Thank you. And I don't want to be duplicative here, Mr. Estrada, but you started to summarize sort of your attempts at service. So just if you could just kind of reiterate that, how your process of serving occurred in this case.
Yeah, I tried to serve Mr. Young through the addresses that we had on file with Tow2Go and Tow2Go Enterprises, and they both showed that Gilpin Street address. And so that is the address that I went with, as opposed to the Colorado Boulevard address, which I later got as confirmation that he was using through 2-chain towing. And so that's the address that I sent the CPAN that it was actually delivered to.
Okay, just for the record, so the successful service based on the tracking information in this exhibit was to the Colorado Boulevard address.
Correct.
And that was the address listed in the as the designated agent for both Tow2Go LLC and 2-chain towing,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Thank you. We can go ahead and pull that down. And Mr. Estrada, just in conclusion, can you just summarize what your recommendations are for today?
Yeah, for the violations listed in the CPAN to be sustained, and to get a refund that was billed to the complainant, in this case for the tow of the vehicle.
Thank you. No further questions from staff at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Young, do you have any cross-examination questions for Mr. Estrada?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and before you get going, just a couple of, you will have the opportunity to present your case when staff is completed. So you still will have that opportunity. And generally speaking, your questions should be similar to the questions that Mr. Larson asked, meaning the same topics of questions that he asked about. And with those advisements, go ahead and you can ask some questions.
Okay, Mr. Estrada, you mentioned that you received a phone call and an email from the customer, correct?
Well, I spoke to her on the phone. I called her, yes, and from that conversation, I was able to get an email from her, email responses from her as far as what house she went to pick up her car and the receipt.
Okay, and you mentioned that she emailed you a receipt over, correct?
Yes.
Okay, did she make any police report or any law enforcement report?
She asked for law enforcement to respond with her to pick up, when she picked up her vehicle, have law enforcement there when she picked up her vehicle, yes.
Do you have any paperwork showing that she had law enforcement with her?
No, I called the agencies in the area, and none of them had anything on file as far as police department going with her, whether it was the sheriff's department or a local police jurisdiction.
So there is no record, correct?
Correct. Just the word of the complainant.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. I did have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Estrada, but Mr. Larson, before I ask those, do you have any redirect based off of respondents cross?
No, Your Honor.
And you'll have the opportunity when I'm done as well if you have any further questions. I'm wondering if we could pull back up Exhibit 101. And can you just, Mr. Estrada, identify for me, and this is just for my edification here. If we go to Tow2Go, which is between pages 7 and 9, I understand that you said there was no storage facility on file. Where would that be on the IFMS report here?
It would be right there on the third highlighted line down where it says address information, and you will see where it says mailing, mailing, and then it says operating mailing and so forth. In that, it would then have other addresses mentioned, whether it's a storage lot address or like right there, a physical address and so forth. And so that's where the storage lot address would be listed.
Okay, thank you for that. That was helpful to me. And then can we now pull up Exhibit 103? And this is the receipt. Is that 103? I apologize. 104, my apologies. I had my notes here were too close together. Where on the receipt does it identify the length of time for the storage of the car?
Well, it does not identify the length of the time of the storage. I go back to the initial complaint that was made where she wrote in her complaint that her vehicle was towed on the 31st. And then on the bottom of the receipt, it shows that this receipt was submitted on the 31st. And so it's just not possible to even reach that 24-hour threshold to meet a full 1 day of storage.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And then finally, if we go back to Exhibit 105, and that is the warning letter against Tow2Go LLC, this postdates the date of violations in this case. Do you know if this matter has been resolved or what the resolution of this warning letter is?
As far as the total intricacies of the entire case, I do not, but usually the case is concluded with whatever action we take, whether it's a warning letter, CPAN, or so forth. And so it is my understanding that this case is completed based on the warning letter that was issued.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you for your time. Do you have any redirect questions based on that?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And I understand that that was your only witness?
Yes, correct. Staff rests.
Thank you. Mr. Young, do you have any witnesses for your case?
No, ma'am.
All right. I apologize. I was having difficulty with my mute button there. And would you like to testify yourself?
I'll repeat that. I didn't hear the last part you said. You were talking to me or someone else?
Yes, you, Mr. Young. Do you wish to testify?
Yes.
Okay, then if you, I know we can't see you, but can you raise your right hand? Do you affirm or swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, great. And at this time, you are welcome to sort of just provide us a narrative of the facts of this case as you understand them, and then you will be subject to some cross-examination, and I might have some questions for you as well. But you're welcome to proceed.
Okay. Yes, Your Honor. On my exhibit 203, can we pull that up? It lists the civil penalty assessment.
Mr. Young, I don't see any exhibits in your box.com folder.
My box, it should have popped up. Yeah, because I got them uploaded and it should have been shared.
It's possible that you maybe created your own folder, but the folder that we created for you that we shared the link with you for, I don't show any files in there.
Yeah, so that's where I got all my exhibits. Well, may I, oh my goodness. So with the civil penalty, um, the civil penalty notice of complaint to appear, can we pull up the civil penalty that the defendant pulled?
Was that exhibit 100 from staff?
Yes.
Okay.
I do apologize. So with this, it says the civil penalty, Robert Young doing business as Tow2Go LLC, and it shows my PUC inactive. Um, that business, that business had been shut down since 2001. And so it shows inactive. But my major concern was with this exhibit. If you look to the left, it shows January 31st, 2024. When you scroll all the way down to the bottom, can we scroll down to the bottom? May I ask the PUC officer where it shows the page 1 of 3 violation and penalty right there where it shows it shows October the 30th, 2024 at 10:46. What day was this created? Was it created on October 31st or was it created on January 31st of 24? That's what I'm so confused on. Because if you look, it shows he signed it. He signed it on October 30th of 2024. If this incident occurred on January 31st of 24, how is that possible? And Your Honor, I do, apologize for wasting your time, but I have no idea of this civil penalty. I have no information on it, and I ask you to reasonably doubt this case due to the fact the dates doesn't match on the civil penalty of when this occurred and when Mr. Jay Astrano signed off on this. And due to the fact the customer
Mr.
received,
Young,
yes,
if I may, uh, staff counsel, would it be okay for Mr. Estrada or you to re-explain? I believe Mr. Estrada testified to this earlier, sort of the date on the bottom. Do you mind explaining the dates on this document again?
Would Your Honor like me to explain that?
Sure, that's fine.
Sure, Your Honor. I believe that the CPAN was prepared on October 30th, 2024. October 30th, and served on October 31st, 2024, if we can scroll down there. Or December, yeah, served on December 13th, 2024, which comes after the date of violation, which is January 31st, 2024. So in terms of the timeline, it makes sense that a CPAN would be made after a violation occurs.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Mr. Young. You're welcome to continue.
yes, ma'am. And also with the customer receipt, it seems like someone can easily create this file. The customer does not have no record of the law enforcement coming with her to pick up a vehicle, because if this was anyone else, if a tow company was to tow my car, I'm quite sure you will understand, if someone was to take your car and with no information, that's concealing stealing a vehicle, correct? I'm not the best person in the law industry, but if someone took my vehicle and demanded cash and don't give me a receipt, I would question that, Your Honor, and I would say I need some kind of documentation for my record besides an email saying that you told my car when from where, because in the state of Colorado, they require you to contact the law enforcement if you have any situation about your vehicle, Your Honor. And this report that Mr. Estrano received, is very limited from the receipt. She has no pictures of that. Her car was at that address on Pontiac. No law enforcement report saying they went out to help her to get a vehicle back. I did not get nothing from that address popped up as Carmen City. I never got no kind of Carmen City police report. I don't know what customer it is. Me and Mr. Estrano have been emailing, and he emailed me the year, make, and model of the car, and that's it. So with all the evidence that's been presented to me with the civil penalty, and also with the report that Mr. Estrano received, Your Honor, I do, ask that you can reasonably doubt this case, because that's, if I was to go and, if I had a problem with this company called Wise Towing, this is the biggest towing company in Colorado. So that means I can create a document, email Mr. Estrano saying I have a complaint, and Mr. Estrano will take my email and basically saying, okay, this company did a violation, and have a list of all the violations, and they're going to go off proof of a receipt with no pictures, no report, and just shoot for this company until what I say, and no hard evidence here, Your Honor. There's no hard evidence here. And like I keep saying, I do apologize, but for one, if you look at the customer receipt, at the bottom of the right-hand corner, it shows page 2/3. Where is page 1 at? There was a page 1 out of 3, because apparently that person emailed him page 2 out of 3. So where is page 1 at?
Thank you, Mr. Young. Do you have anything further before it looks like Ms. Chong will ask you a few cross-examination questions?
No, that's it.
Oh. And now you're subject to a few cross-examination questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Young. My name is Aileen Chong. I'm an Assistant Attorney General, and I just have a couple of questions for you very quickly. Mr. Young, in your testimony, you had indicated that Tow2Go was an entity that you had owned previously, correct?
Correct.
And you
That
were,
en-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that entity shut down in November 15th of 2021.
Okay,
Tow2Go
and you're talking
LLC.
about Tow2Go LLC?
Yes.
Okay, but at the time you were the sole owner of that company?
Yes.
Okay. And you had mentioned that you did not have notice of the CPAN, correct?
I'm sorry?
You had testified that you did not have notice of the CPAN, or I'm sorry, the civil penalty assessment notice.
Yes, I do have that, yes.
So you did have notice of it.
I just received it when Mr. Estrano mailed the yellow envelope to the open address, yes.
Okay,
I
great.
just received it like
Okay.
a couple of weeks ago, yes.
Great. And Your Honor, if I could have just a couple minutes to confer with my co-counsel?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. And let me review my notes for a moment to see if I might have some questions for you, Mr. Young. Actually, Mr. Young, I do have one question for you, which is, are you familiar with the tow in question? Do you know the civil penalty assessment, are you familiar with that tow?
I'm not familiar with, I have no idea about this tow. That's why I got caught off guard, and where I have no information about this tow. Because the customer receipt seems like it was typed up, and that Mr. Estrano received. And I have no idea. And that's why I was trying to explain. if I had a problem with another tow company, I can just email the PUC office and file a complaint when, they don't have no hard evidence to go off of. And that's why I don't know what this is here.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question for you is, it's a two-part question. It's, are you operating as a tow operator now? And if so, under what business name?
Okay, so yes, ma'am, I do have a tow company. It's called 2 Chains Towing.
Okay, thank you. And I misspoke. I do have one further question with that. The receipt we were looking at, the Exhibit 104, is that a receipt from your company?
No, ma'am.
From Tow2Go? No?
No, ma'am. That's because if you look also on there, it got taxes. And how could a company charge taxes if they're not selling it, like reselling something? To the right, it shows $11.64 in taxes. Well, why would a person pay taxes if their bill got towed?
All right, thank you. I have no further questions. Ms. Chong, do you have any follow-up questions based on my questions?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, it appears that we've completed the evidentiary portion of this complaint, of this hearing, so at this point, I will close the record. What I will do is make a written decision with my findings, and that I'll issue that in the next few weeks. And at that time, then it'll set forth next steps for the parties. And we can go ahead and close the record now. And thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.